Revenue can be the most misleading number in your firm. You can look at your revenue and think that you're growing. You can have high revenue and still feel stressed. And the firm owners that don't feel any stress are not even watching their numbers. I'm going to talk to you today about what revenue actually is and what number you should pay attention to make sure that your firm is growing. This is the Attorney CheatCode Podcast. Welcome in the room. If this is your first time here, then welcome. And of course, if you are returning, you've been with me before, then thank you for rocking with me. This is the place where we are going to design firms around our life so that we can have the firm of our dreams and the life of our dreams. We are creating profitable law firms here in the Attorney CheatCode Podcast. My name is Alicia Jones, and I'm a Texas-based attorney, and I appreciate you spending this time with me. Make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified of future episodes. So let's get into it. You know, when you think about revenue, you think, oh, revenue is good. That's what's going to tell me how my firm is growing. It's telling me about the money that's coming in. And kind of, yeah, but not really. When you're looking at revenue, it's not actually the number that is going to help you grow. It's not the number that's going to help you scale. It's also not the number that even your CPA is going to look at to help you determine when you can make certain financial decisions in your firm. The revenue it's very sneaky, right? The revenue is one of those numbers that you could look at and you feel like, oh, I'm making money and the firm is growing and I have a staff and we have income and, clients are coming in and we're getting new calls. But that revenue, like I said, is sneaky because it is not actually a depiction of the health of your firm. When you're looking at your revenue, that is really just activity. Maybe that means that your marketing is working, but it does not mean that at the end of the day, you're actually making money, that you actually have a profit, or that you're actually spending the money wisely so that when it comes in, what happens in the middle, and then at the end of the year, you look and say, okay, I made how much? Like legit. How many times have you looked, especially if you've already started your firm, how many times have you gotten to the end of the year, beginning of the year where tax time is, and you get that end of the year number and you're like, we made how much money? You're surprised by it because you're not watching your numbers or you're not watching the right number. If you only watch that revenue number, it can deceive you into thinking that you're growing, and that activity, which revenue is the activity, it can deceive you into thinking that you are headed towards your goals, but you're actually not. And that you're going to achieve the freedom that you so desire, but you actually are not, because that revenue is not the number that you need to track. The revenue is not, like I said, it's not about the firm's health. It does not show you if your firm is actually achieving the goals that you've set aside or the goals that you've put forth that you want your firm to hit. When you're thinking about the numbers, revenue does not show you how much money you actually kept. Revenue does not show you how much you worked for that number, right? So maybe you have a great number, but then if you look back, your team and yourself, you're all exhausted because you overworked or you worked so hard to get that number, and working in that way is not sustainable from year to year. So yay. Kudos to you. You did it that one year, but is that something that you and your team are going to want to do moving forward? Are there some different systems that you need to be putting into place so that you can still get that number, but in a way more efficient manner? The other thing you have to think about, if you have trust accounts and you are working on retainers, that income number is not automatically the number that is earned. You have to earn that money that goes into your trust account. So yeah, you have a lot of revenue and maybe you have 6-7 figures in your trust account, but that income, that activity is not going to depict the health of your firm. That is not the number that you need to watch to know whether or not you are growing or whether or not you're hitting the numbers that you want to hit, so that you can do what you want to, so that you can scale, so that you can hire, so that you can actually have a sustainable firm. Revenue does not show you if the numbers that you have, revenue does not show you how sustainable your firm actually is. So I talked a little bit earlier about how revenue is sneaky. Revenue is sneaky because it doesn't show you the margin reality. It doesn't show you the cash flow reality, and it doesn't show you the authority reality. So let's break each of those down. Number one is your margin reality. And I hear you. You're like, what do you mean by margin? Margin is that space that you have to actually do something that you want to do. If you are only working and hitting the numbers and equaling out, then you don't have any margin for any error. That means everything has to be perfect. Nobody needs to go out and be sick. No one needs to have a claim against the firm. You have not put any margin for fees or taxes or payroll increases or any of those things that come with growing a firm. You have no margin. If you think about a piece of paper, of course, you have that margin on both sides of a piece of paper because typically we write in the middle. But if you need to carry over, you have that margin on the left and the right that you can write some notes or you can carry over that sentence into the margin. When you're thinking about your finances, it's very, very similar to that, where yes, I'm making money. Yes, here's the revenue, but what margin do I have? If you're only looking at the activity, i.e. the revenue, if you're only looking at that, then you don't know what your margin is. You don't know if you have a slow month, if you're going to survive that. You don't know, okay, we have high revenue this month, we have high collections, we're doing well. And if the next 2 or 3 months, what is that margin that you have to make sure that you're able to continue to pay your staff, you're able to continue to cover your overhead and continue to grow in those months where it may dip a little bit? And I'm not saying it's going to be an absolute zero month. I surely hope not for you. Howbeit ever, in this land of entrepreneurship, we know that there are ups, downs, lefts, rights, and turns and twists. Anything but a straight and narrow, right? Anything but a straight road. So what I'm saying is when you know your numbers, the actual numbers that you need to look at, then they're going to show you how much margin you have, how much space you have that you can actually do a little wiggle, how much space you have to actually have a slow month and still be okay. Revenue does not show you that number. The other thing with the margin is that if you make a lot, but you don't keep a lot, it's not really about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. Even when you think about taxes, right? We don't want to pay a lot of taxes. It's about how much you made and how much you kept. The government is like, ooh, how much did you make? So now come and pay me. But we as firm owners, we as business owners, we need to look at how much we were actually able to keep. And oftentimes when we look at that number, we think, oh, okay, after I've paid this, that, third, and the people and the staff and the payroll and the taxes and the overhead and the software and the technology, after I've paid all of that and this is what is left over here, then this is my margin. This is the number that I need to look at. And it's not. That is actually not the number either. But that traditionally is how we have thought about it. If you're like me, you did not go to business school before you became an attorney. You went to undergrad. You said you wanted to go, you applied, you got in, you passed the bar and all of the things, right? But at no point in that, at least not historically, there were no business classes set aside in law school that said, hey, this is how you run the business of a law firm. This is the business side of being an attorney. Yeah, there were some office management classes and they were pretty cool, but going in depth of, okay, this is not just how you start a firm, but this is how you make it profitable. And this is why the Attorney CheatCode exists, because we need to know how to make our firms profitable so that we are not working until we're 70, 80, 90 years old because we have to. But if we are working at 70, 80, 90 in our law firm, it's because we choose to. It's because we love what we're doing. It's because it's fulfilling for us. It's because that's what we want to do. That is our heart's desire, not because, ooh, if I let this go, I don't know how I'm going to live. I don't know how I'm going to sustain myself. So when you're looking at the margin, and I think about for myself, I think about before I actually got the proper systems in place because I didn't know what I was doing. I would get money in and I would spend it, or I would get money in and I would pay myself. And I was not thinking about, okay, 3, 4, 5 years from now, do I want to start putting something to the side for that? Or if I have a slow month next month, what is going to happen? I'm going to pay I'm having a great month this month. I'm going to pay myself more. Maybe or maybe not. Maybe that should be set aside in a savings account for the times that are going to come that you're going to have a dip in your month, or a slower month, or slower collections in a particular month. Even if you think about holidays, think about November and December. We have so many holidays, November, December, and January, that your income or your revenue or your collections, a lot of those things may fluctuate because, let's be real, around Christmas times, you're important to your clients, but getting those gifts for baby girl or making sure that, their son has the new sneaks is way more important to clients sometimes than actually paying your bill. Not saying it's not going to get paid, but it may get paid slower and may get paid a little bit later. And that is something that you have to account for. And the fact that you have fewer working days during that time. So now your staff, it has a lot of paid holidays that they didn't actually bill for, but they're about to be paid for. And again, that's something that's not taught to us in law school. And unless you have that business acumen, or unless you've done a few classes, or unless you've been told and taught from somewhere else, we're kind of filling in the dark trying to figure this thing out. But again, that is why the Attorney Cheat Code is here, because we are going to open that up. We're going to talk about what that looks like to make sure that we create profitable law firms, and that we're thinking about all of these things, that we're actually looking at the numbers that actually matter. So our margin, we're going to make sure that margin actually exists, number one, and we're going to make it a little bit wider so that we can cover ourselves in slower months, or months that we need to be able to carry over. Now, number two is the cash flow problem. And then we think about cash flow and we look at revenue. We're like, again, you can say, hey, Alicia, look, I am making good money. We have funds coming in. We have clients that are getting signed up every day or every week or every month. And we're doing better this year than we were doing last year. But are you though? That revenue, again, is that the number that you need to look at? Is that revenue telling you what happens at the end of the month? Is that revenue flowing to the end of the month? Or are you eating that up as soon as it comes in? What percentage of your payroll is coming from that revenue? Do you have any margin? Again, that cash flow can be hidden in the revenue. That is one of the sneaky things about it, because if you focus on that revenue number, you will really think that, oh, I have good cash flow. But how far does that cash flow through your firm before it goes away? How far can that cash carry you before it goes away? When you have staff, when you have technology, when you have software to cover, when you have all of this overhead, that cash can get eaten up as soon as it comes in. But if you're only looking at the fact that it came in versus where it flows and how long it flows, then you are in the dark about what your firm actually looks like. And that is another sneaky point with revenue and looking at that activity number, is that you think that you have cash flow, but you actually do not. Now, number three is authority. And we've talked about that before. We've talked about what it means to have authority and how you maintain authority for your firm, because you're the CEO, you are the owner. And then what does it look like to execute? Yes, I'm giving you, for lack of a better term, authority. I'm giving you the will to do a certain thing. I want you to execute on this. There are certain things that I'm going to keep. There are certain things that only I can do. But if you have not revisited your authority, but your firm is growing, or you haven't revisited your authority or your systems, but your firm is growing, then you are going to be stressed out. Think about this. When you first started, more than likely you started with you, maybe one other person. You started to create some systems or some file folders, or the way that you were doing things, some operating procedures for your firm. And now if you look around, you have a staff of 5, 10, 15, 20 people. And what was able to sustain you, the system that was able to sustain you with you and one other person, absolutely cannot sustain you at this point. There are so many other people that are depending on you. There are more decisions. There are more cases. There are more decisions. There are more emails. There are more decisions. There is more staff. And all of that will come back on you, and you will feel stressed out if you have not revisited your authority. Meaning, what am I only able to do? What are the things that only I should be doing? And as the firm grows, then someone has to take a few things off my plate instead of them being added and compiled on my plate, because I'm the firm owner, which is naturally what's going to happen. As the cases increase, if you have not taught your people how to manage more, then you, as a responsible firm owner, are going to take on those cases. You're going to ensure that your clients are happy. You're going to ensure that the work is moving forward, but that is not sustainable. If you want to achieve freedom, and whatever freedom looks like for you is what it looks like for you, right? But I would imagine, and tell me if I'm wrong, I would imagine the freedom doesn't look like you at your firm 5 days a week for 10, 12, God forbid, 14 hours or overnight or till 8, 9 o'clock at night, working on the weekend, 6, 7 days a week in your firm, but your firm is growing. You're fully staffed. You have 10, 15 staff members. You have a team of 4 or 5 attorneys, and they each have a paralegal, and you have an admin assistant, and you have an intake person, and you have an office manager, but you're still working 7 days a week. And you're like, oh, yes, good revenue, but you're tired. But you're stressed out, but you have decision fatigue because you have not revisited your authority. You have not revisited the systems that help you to get there. Yay for you for the growth. And now let's revisit what that system looks like. And if you're looking at revenue, again, you're like, yay, we're getting money in. This is amazing. This is exciting. And it is. It's a blessing and it's wonderful. Now, what are you doing with it? How are you using that revenue, that activity to track the real numbers so that you can achieve the freedom that you so desire to obtain and to create and to design the law firm of your dreams, to have the life of your dreams? Your freedom is trapped behind old systems. And you can't get upset with your staff. You cannot get upset with them. You may want to. You may feel like, oh my goodness, I'm stressed. Why is nobody taking anything off my plate? Because why? That's not for them to do. It's for you to delegate properly to make sure that they know what is expected of them and how can they succeed in that role, or how can they could succeed with that task. That's on you, CEO. That's on me, CEO. If I feel like I'm stressed, that's on me to say, okay, what am I doing that I don't need to do? What am I doing, or how am I operating in a way that does not allow me to really exist in a place of freedom? How am I not operating as a CEO? What tasks am I still holding on to at the administrative level, at the drafting level, at the client management level, that I can really train someone and delegate that to and take that completely off of my plate? Again, you have to revisit what that authority and what those systems look like for you. Otherwise, your freedom will stay trapped behind old systems. And the next time, I want you to think about this, and maybe this has been you. No shade if it has been. We're here to grow together. Be honest with yourself. If you said to yourself, you know what? This has been, or you look back, this has been the best year ever. Wonderful. And the next time you hear somebody say that, oh, this has been our best revenue year ever. Great. What was your profit margin? That's the first question. What was your profit margin? You don't know? Number 2, what percentage of that revenue went to payroll? You don't know? What percentage of that revenue went to overhead? Don't know? Exactly, because you're looking at the wrong number. You're looking at the activity, which is the revenue, versus looking at the right number, which is your profit. The profit is what's going to tell you the health of your firm. Profit is what's going to tell you if you're growing smart, or if you're going to be in the same space 3, 4, 5 years from now. If you're going to be forced to work 3 or 4 or 5 years past where you want to. If you're going to be forced in the same position. If you're going to be stuck in being CEO by title, but being a worker bee in action. That's what's going to actually tell you that is that profit number. And we are not taught how to actually look at profit. What does profit mean? Is it that leftover after we've paid everything out? Is it a leftover after I have paid my taxes and I paid my payroll and my overhead and I paid my dues and my fees that are due for attorneys every single year? Is that the number? Is that the profit that I'm looking at? And not necessarily. I'm going to talk to you about how to actually calculate that profit. But the first thing you need to understand is profit is a number that's going to tell you if your firm is healthy or if it is weak and feeble. If it is like a baby deer that has just been born, as soon as they drop out and they look a little wobbly, if your firm is fragile like that, if your firm is strong, your profit margin is really what's going to tell you that. Now, here is the attorney cheat code. Here's how you calculate that profit. Be honest with yourself, friend. The first thing you want to do is look at your numbers for the last 12 months. Make sure that you have that laid out, and you should, as I'm shooting this is the beginning of the new year. So look at your numbers from the last 12 months, whether that's, a full calendar year, it kind of flows over. It doesn't matter. Look at your numbers for the last 12 months. And you want to look at number 1, your total revenue for the last 12 months. That's your first number that you want to track, is your total revenue for the last 12 months. Then the next thing you want to do is look at your total profit for the last 12 months. And traditionally, like I said, is what's left over at the end of the month. And if you have a CPA, they have more than likely given you monthly statements that show your profit and loss. So you can cheat and go ahead and get that number from there. What is your profit from the last 12 months? Then I want you to calculate owner pay. How much did you pay yourself out in the last 12 months? And then look at those three numbers and determine what is your percentage rate based upon those three numbers. What is your profit margin of your percentage of profit for those three numbers for the last 12 months? Is it good? Are you surprised? Have you ever done this before? Most firm owners have actually never done this. And again, that's no shade. I didn't even do it myself until I learned about the Profit First system. And when I learned about it, I read the book and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Let me see how to put this into practice for my firm. Because of course, the book is not written for firm owners. It's not written for a law firm CEO, but it doesn't mean that we can't apply it to the way that we do things. So once it applied, that was my first year seeing an actual profit. And I think at that point, I may have been 8 or 9 years into practice. And that's when I actually saw profit. Yes, there was money here and there. And I was like, okay, there's money at the end of the year. But there was actually a number set aside that was very clear, delineated as profit. And profit is that number that now you can pay yourself. Now you can bonus out your staff and say thank you. Now you can do those end of the year parties and buy them gifts and show your gratitude for the work and the diligence that they've shown to your firm. But if you don't know those numbers, if you do not know your profit, if you don't know your actual revenue number and how that plays a part in your actual profit and your owner pay, and you don't know what that percentage looks like, and you don't know how much of your payroll coming from the revenue or coming from that profit, then at the end of the year, you will be surprised. And then another year will come around and you will be surprised again. You can know your numbers. All it takes is a real come to Jesus moment. Write down those numbers for the last 12 months. The first one is, how much revenue did you have for the last 12 months? How much profit did you have for the last 12 months? And then, of course, how much did you pay yourself for the last 12 months? This is how you're going to calculate your profit. And that is the number that you want to look at. Not the activity, which is the revenue. You want to look at the profit, which is the number that you kept. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. That is going to determine the health of your firm. That's what's going to help you scale and grow in the way that you so desire. So, in conclusion, as you can tell, I love Profit First. I love how the book has helped to change my firm. And I love being able to see that profit number and knowing that it's not tied to anything else. It's not allocated towards anything else. And I want to show you about that. So in the next episode, we're going to dive deep into how to create a Profit First system for your law firm so that you can experience profit and that you can enjoy your firm. You can enjoy the life that your firm is going to afford you. I'm so looking forward to you joining me for that episode. Make sure that you take a moment and write your numbers down so that you know where you are now. There is no shame in where you are now. There's shame in staying there. So make sure that you are growing with intentionality, and I will see you on the next episode of the Attorney CheatCode Podcast. Until next time, I am Alicia Jones, and I'm honored that you have spent this time with me today.